Let's go live button, which means we've got to wait for the stream to connect the interweb tubes and do the thing that they do, the RTMP to the 1.2 to the HTTP to so on and so forth before we can start the broadcast. But it looks like we're alive and well, so let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. And today we are talking about Insurrection episode number 7. And I know what you're thinking, Rob, number 7? What? We've already been covering this for 7 series? Yeah, it is. This was supposed to be a limited series of only 6 episodes, but then they had this encore. We're on episode 7, and they say that there's a lot more groundbreaking stuff. So there's probably going to be episode 8 and episode 9, and the list goes on and on and on. And so I know you're tired of it, but we've got to attend to it. I mean, we have to do it. America is on the line. And so today we've got a lot to unpack. Of course, we're going to go to our J6 mind map. January 6th mind map is available at j6mindmap.com. And my goodness, there's a lot to get to. You see, we're really going to be only spending our day in this section. Now, ordinarily, when you zoom out on this puppy, right, we've covered a lot. We've covered all of the J6 crimes. We've talked about the process crimes for Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon. On the mind map, we have, courtesy of C-SPAN Review, we have our J6 insurrection card, which is on here. We have our memes. I mean, this is what we all feel like here. Poor Ben Affleck, like the video staff. But today, we're really going to be living in the event that occurred today, which of course was episode, I think this was episode 6, or was it episode number 7? I can't keep track. I think this was 7 because we had the surprise episode last time that I didn't count. And this was, of course, a lot of activity today. I think it went about 3 full hours. And so as you can see, we've already got this thing just separated out for easy analysis. We're not going to spend 3 hours here listening to these people who really like to listen to themselves. We're going to listen to just little highlights of them. We've got clips of Raskin here. Raskin is calling this American carnage. He brought out a Proud Boy, allegedly somebody who was very concerned about the future of America, and we're going to listen to him. Now, you'll notice I've also got some interesting clips of Raskin from prior elections. What? Are you kidding me? Is Raskin on the record objecting to electoral outcomes previously? Well, it turns out he is. Raskin objection in 2020 when Trump won, and another one from 2003 when something else was going on. So we're going to take a look at that. We also had Representative Murphy, who really dove into Trump's speech and Trump's tweets, which were, of course, insurrection tweets. And so she brought those out and played those for America. The idea being that Trump was sort of altering his speech to go and enthuse the Proud Boys and enthuse the seditionists to go and insurrect America. And then we're going to look at what she had to say about Ivanka Trump's chief of staff. She was brought into the conversation. And we've got a little reaction because I got a clip here, as you can see, from Rachel Maddow. Well, what? What is she doing here? Didn't she quit her job because it was too much work or something? She got stressed out being on cable for an hour every night. So, we're going to listen to her. We also got a non-tweet that was a really big issue. This was an image of a tweet that never made it out onto Twitter. And apparently that's worthy of an epic meltdown. So we'll get to that. We've got some clips from Donald Trump. And we're also going to talk about Liz Cheney today. Liz Cheney had a groundbreaker today. Headlines flying all over the place that Donald Trump might be engaged in witness tampering. Yeah, that's right. Because this is a legitimate committee, of course, and they don't want their witnesses, which are totally legitimate, totally corroborated, part of a proper process, don't want them tampered with because it might jeopardize the inquiry, which is just hysterical. I'm going to bust out laughing. I'm trying to contain myself. We just started the show. But she came out and said Donald Trump was calling some witnesses. They brought out this other gentleman, Stephen Ayers, who I think was actually convicted of some crimes. And so we'll get into some more of that before we jump into the reaction. Now, today, there was just this outstanding clip. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but if you haven't, it's just outstanding. We'll get to it later. John Bolton, who used to work with Trump, right? He was actually in the White House for a long period of time, multiple administrations, and he had something to say about insurrections. and he openly admits to Jake Tapper, how does he know about insurrections? Well, he's planned many of them. he's somebody who knows how to coordinate a coup d'etat. And Donald Trump didn't do a coup d'etat because I know what a real coup d'etat looks like, Jake. Okay. And this January 6th insurrection was like child's play, buddy boy. And there's a lot that goes into it. And so it was just an amazing clip. We also have this gal. This lady is a former senator. Her name is Heidi Heitkamp, which is just a perfect name. It'd be like if I was Robbie Roberto or something. I don't know what it. Anyways, here's the point. Is that racist? It might be racist. I don't know. I don't think it is, because today is Taco Tuesday, the First Lady's most favorite Hispanic breakfast. Of course, that went around today. We're going to listen to this lady, Heidi Heitkamp, who's now telling us, of course, what we all already know, that this is a political hit job. I'm trying to keep it together. Okay, so we're going to get into that. Jonathan Turley came out, and Jonathan Turley said, yeah, this is ridiculous. I don't see a criminal case here, which is obvious. And so we'll listen to that clip, and then we'll see what CNN went out and they did a man on the street segment about this. And I was going to say, I was going to ask you to ask yourself, what do you think people have to say about this? But unfortunately, when I was doing my show prep, I obviously ruined the surprise, because here you can see it says no one cares. I was going to ask you, what do you think people on the streets said? And I blew it. I blew the surprise. I apologize. It says no one cares. And so we'll get into that. And then we'll look at what's coming up next. There was supposed to be an event this week on Thursday, but they had to move that. They're saying because Pat Cipollone is going to blow the lid off this whole thing. We'll see. I think it's because Steve Bannon told them openly that they're willing to testify. And so, oh my goodness, that means you can see we've just got a lot to get to. And my friends, if you want to be a part of the show, the place to do that, of course, is over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We've got an awesome community over there where we post our walk and talks first thing in the morning. We've got Vienti Kisses in the house. I thought he was on vacation, but apparently that's not till next week. We have Savdi's here. I haven't seen Savdi in a long time. JC the Music Man. Al Bayan Thailand is here, which is a new one. Welcome. Wild Type Mind is here. Okay, is that actually Ben Affleck? I think it was. MBB from Texas 48 is here. JC the Music Man. Former LEO's in the house. Radicy, See the Veil, and others are chatting away at our community at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Same perks you get if you join up on the YouTube. Now, I'm trying to turn on the membership gifting permission. I looked today, I couldn't find it. I don't think it's on for our channel, and so I wasn't able to do that. But if you join there, it's right next to that red subscribe button. If you join, you get the same walk and talk perks. If you, just join for now and you'll be good. And of course, if you happen to know anybody in the state of Arizona who is charged with a crime, a traffic violation, we know that bad things can happen to good people, and we want to help good people get through the justice system and get back on their feet. And so our mission is to help good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope. We offer free case evaluations, 480-787-0394 if you would like to schedule an appointment. And of course, I appreciate your referrals. Your referrals keep us going, keep us in business. We have a lot of fun here, but we have an amazing team. Most of my day is dedicated to actually helping people, boots on the ground, helping our team. And so thank you for your referrals over to us. And now, without any further ado, let's get into the content of the day. First of all, let me give some shout outs here to a couple people in the chat. We have Unmod Lean. We have Bill Boyer. Oh, Unmod Lean. What? Unmod Lean. That caught me off guard here. Playing hookies here. Cool Guy 18,000. We can't unmod Lean. That doesn't make any sense. C. Reed is here. K. Bean is modding up. American in Exile. Let's check out what's going on over on Rumble. Vienticus Prime is there. Blue Fiend is there, but I don't see anybody else chatting on Rumble. It was very busy yesterday, but now it's pretty light over there. But that's okay. We've got everybody chatting away on the other platforms. And now, as I said, without any further ado, we can get into it. Okay, so here it is. We've got episode number 7, the Insurrectionists were really the subject of the hearing today. And we've got several different individuals. We've got Representative Murphy, we have Representative Raskin, and of course, the Vice Chair, Liz Cheney. And, Benny Thompson was there, and Adam Kinzinger, and all of the other folks. But today we're really going to be spending our time with these three individuals. And so here we're going to start off the show with Raskin. this has sort of been like a musical chair. Well, no, that's kind of a game, right? Where somebody leaves at the end. This has been, it's just taking turns, right? These are all a bunch of bureaucrats from blue districts, these Democrats, and Liz Cheney's really sort of setting herself up for a primary run, right? If Donald Trump runs, she's going to run against him, and she's going to set herself up for probably a presidential run at some point, like John McCain, the Maverick or something, right? And so all of these people are essentially just trying to bolster their credentials. And so they take their turns. It's like, okay, can I go now? Can I get my 15 minutes in front of the American? Can I read from the teleprompter, please? And so it was Raskin's turn. And he started that today. And so we've got our first clip from Slippery Jamie Raskin. And here it is. It says, American carnage. Now, this is the clip. Now, it's very gruesome language. He says that Donald Trump, look at that, people are wiping tears from their eyes. Oh my gosh, it's so emotional. All right, let's listen. A minute and a half.
In his inaugural address, Trump introduced one commanding image, American carnage.
Oh, American carnage. American carnage. That was the scenery.
Although that turn of phrase explained little about our country before he took office, it turned out to be an excellent prophecy of what his rage would come to visit on our people. Mr. Ayers just described how the trust he placed in President Trump as a camp follower derailed his life and nearly wrecked his reputation and his family. A few weeks.
Reading from the teleprompter. Stephen was the other gentleman who testified, and we actually don't have a clip from Stephen today. They talked a lot about the election, and a lot of it was sort of, he was saying that he sort of has some open questions about it, but Liz Cheney was really sort of exploring it with him. And so it got really close to that election line. So I know that videos have already gotten tossed for getting close to that. So I don't have a clip from him, but this was after that testimony. And he was somebody who got prosecuted and actually, I think, lost a friend of his to suicide, who was also indicted. I mean, sort of, a gruesome situation can happen. And he's the person who's actually, who's being referenced here from Raskin.
Weeks ago, we heard Shaye Moss and her mother, Ruby Freeman, Speaker Rusty Bowers from Arizona, and Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger describe how hate-filled intimidation campaigns by Trump and his followers made them prisoners in their homes and drove their stress and anxiety to soaring new heights when they refused to do Trump's bidding.
Okay, so I think he just said, who has anxiety? Who is he talking about here?
And drove their stress and anxiety to Raffensperger describe how hate-filled intimidation campaigns by Trump and his followers made them prisoners in their homes.
Raffensperger and the Georgia election officials, they were the ones who apparently were so traumatized. And we broke that down previously. Remember, Raffensperger was like, yeah, and my daughter-in-law, her home was burglarized. They were asking him questions like, what happened in 2021? He said, well, my daughter's home got burglarized. And you're like, well, did that have anything to do with the insurrection? Or what does that have to do with anything?
And drove their stress and anxiety to soaring new heights when they refused to do Trump's bidding.
Okay.
American carnage. That's Donald Trump's true legacy. His desire to overthrow the people's election and seize the presidency interrupted the counting of electoral college votes for the first time in American history, nearly toppled the constitutional order.
Okay, very careful word there. Nearly toppled the constitutional order. Okay, now, I think you could say technically maybe he's right about that, right? Like, the ordinary counting of the electoral votes goes through a normal just rubber stamp process. So if you did have Mike Pence accept an alternative slate of electors, then you might make the argument that that is a different order, right? You could say, well, that we don't normally do that. That's sort of outside of the order of the Constitution. But the other argument, right, the response to that is that no, it's not. That's the entire argument that Trump and his people were making. Even though, and I've said this before, I disagree with that argument. I didn't think, and I'm on the record on this channel, even before the election took place, saying that I could see the argument that Trump and his people were making after the election took place in the post-election litigation. We covered this at length, and we were speculating what could Pence do. And we talked about the Congressional Research Service. We went through, it's all on the mind map. I mean, we've talked about it. I don't need to belabor this point, but the question is whether Donald Trump could make that argument or whether that in and of itself is insurrectionary. And Jamie Raskin is saying that that argument, questioning the election, looking backwards and challenging any of this, is akin to, overriding, I guess, undermining the American constitutional order. So there's a number of different ways you can split that. Or you could say it's within perfect constitutional order, because what we're doing is we're using the mechanisms, the levers of the Constitution in order to satiate, to settle this issue. And the Constitution, many people might argue, gives the state legislatures a lot more power than they were exercising during the 2020 elections, right? You could say that the secretaries of state and the executive branches have usurped some of the power from the legislative branch in order to conduct elections as they see fit. And we talked about this. Most of the pre-election litigation lawsuits involved many of the secretaries of state who, on their own, sua sponte, unilaterally, went and started changing some of the rules around on the pretext of COVID. So if we now made a constitutional argument, I'm just playing devil's advocate here to dumb Jamie Raskin, we could say that there is a basis for the challenge in the Constitution, even though you disagree with it. Let's listen to this goofball wrap it up.
And brutalized hundreds and hundreds of people. The Watergate break-in was like a Cub Scout meeting compared to this assault on our people and our institutions.
An assault on our people and our institutions. Watergate was like a Cub Scouts meeting. Okay, so that's slippery Jamie Raskin. Now, we got to pay close attention to this character because, he's saying that this is American carnage. Donald Trump challenging the regular constitutional order is a gigantic problem. And oh my goodness, America is doomed because of it. So very curiously, RNC Research went back and they found this clip. Oh, they say here, RNC Research posted this one, tells us Jamie in 2003. There must be another election. He's the author of Overruling Democracy. Says the court has been thwarting the formation of the popular will and essentially gave America its first court-appointed president. He's probably talking about Bush versus Gore there, right? Let's see what Raskin's book is. Raskin, Overruling Democracy. Did he write that? Yeah, here it is. Amazon. Jamie B. Raskin. So let's just share this over here with you. And this is what he wrote. So here's the title of this book. Supreme Court. Here it is, right? Overruling Democracy, the Supreme Court versus the American people. A paperback's $120. What? Oh my gosh. This must be his, he must be selling this to law school students or college students or something. What a ripoff. Look at this. Heresy. This book sucks. It's an overwhelming anti-USA fairy tale, complete heresy. Yeah. For $120 for this guy's paperback, hardcover, buy new for $52. Ugh. All right. So that's Jamie Raskin. Now, as you can see, he's making the argument that the court is undermining, usurping the will of the American people. He's challenging democracy. I mean, he's advocating for what sounds like a elimination of the court, which is an institution pretty important to this country. Let's listen to old Jamie.
On the popular input side, the court has been thwarting formation of the popular will, the most spectacular example being Bush versus Gore, where the majority, by a 5-4 vote, enjoined the counting of more than 100,000 ballots in Florida and essentially gave America its first court-appointed president.
Yeah, so he's just always unhappy, essentially, unless his team wins, right? And really complaining about it constantly. So you might say, well, that's an aberration. And you might actually agree with his critique on this. And you can go back and read Bush v. Gore, which I have. We spent a lot of time on that case for some reason in my class in law school. It's actually an interesting case because it talks about equal protection and, how if a state has different counting methodologies for the counting of the ballots, how that could maybe mean that one voter's ballot is not given the same weight as another voter's ballot, right? Like, let's say if one person votes one time and one person votes 5 times, that one person who voted 5 times has 5 times as many votes, which means, working backwards, that your vote was 20% of the total. And so now, how do the laws that promise equal protection under the law, how do those work if that inequality exists? Well, it's a problem. And they talked about this being a problem in Bush versus Gore in 2000. And of course, it is a continual problem leading up into 2022 into 2024, because these dingbats still haven't been able to figure out how to run elections or at least be open and transparent about them, in my humble opinion, about how these things should work. Now, even Jamie Raskin is unhappy with elections and how these things are conducted, because as you will see here, we have Jamie Raskin, who was objecting to Donald Trump back in 2020. And so let's see if we can piece together the various parties. Oh, you're kidding me. Wow. You can see here. Look who's right there. Is that Joe Biden up there? Yeah, because he was the vice president. That's right. And we also have Paul Ryan over there, right? Speaker of the House. And so Jamie Raskin is here during the counting of the electoral votes. And here Joe Biden is playing the role that Mike Pence played in 2020. And Mike Pence did the same thing Joe Biden did. And people were doing the same thing that Jamie Raskin did. And people were making the same arguments that Jamie Raskin was here, right? Trump and his people were saying the electors were invalid. The electors who signed the certificates of ascertainment that came out of the state governments, it's like a document, right? I counted the votes. We've ascertained the proper counts in our states, and the electors sign off on it, all of the different names. Those documents, they get bundled up in a big envelope. They get FedExed over to the Capitol building. Joe Biden here opens them up. Back then, he had some cognitive abilities and some capabilities to move his hands. And now he is sort of here, right here. He's counting them. And Raskin is going to make the same arguments that other people were making in 2020, that the electors who signed those certificates were invalid. Let's listen.
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified because they violated Florida's prohibition against dual office holding.
Okay. Dual office holding. Florida had a prohibition against dual office holding, right? We talked some about that, some about all of the different reasons why these electors might be, in fact, invalid. But this is Jamie Raskin, one more time, objecting, making the same arguments that Trump was making. And I know that volume was loud. I turned it down.
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified because they violated Florida's prohibition against dual office holding.
Okay, so you can see, right, that that's not my volume, hopefully. That is his volume. But the recording there is communicating that he was objecting in much the same way that many other individuals were back after 2020. So, it's the same conduct. It's the same arguments. So I'm wondering if that was American carnage, or is it that statement, but if nothing bad happens, that statement's okay? But if something bad happens, then Raskin would have been indicted for this or something. I don't know. But you can see, right, that much the same conduct, which really means we should just jump on down to, we'll just jump on down to one of these reactions. This woman, I told you, Heidi Heitkamp, which is very little too close to a double first name for my comfort, but she was a former senator from somewhere. And she is really framing this out for us. I was going to save this to the end, but I mean, she tells us what this is all about right out of the gates. Former Democratic senator saying that these are essentially, literally a political event designed to hurt Donald Trump. That's it. That's all these things are, right? She's on ABC. She's communicating it. Former Senator Heidi.
These events, we're covering them a lot like a trial, but they really are a political event. But again, I think their narrative is a political narrative. It's going to be up to the Justice Department. I agree with Dan. I think everything, as a former prosecutor myself, everything that I've heard, I think it would be a very tough indictment to get, but I also think it would be a tough way. I think it would be very, very difficult, knowing what we know right now, to see an indictment of this president.
Did you hear that? That was a side note. Wow. So,
these events, we're covering them a lot like a trial, but
they're really political.
They really are a political event. But again, I think their narrative is a political narrative. It's going to be up to the Justice Department. I agree with Dan. I think everything, as a former prosecutor myself, everything that I've heard, I think it would be a very tough indictment to get, but I also think it would be a tough way. I think it would be very, very difficult, knowing what we know right now, to see an indictment of this president.
Yeah, she said what I thought she said. My goodness. So she's saying it would be difficult to get an indictment of this president. And so she's reacting to the hearing even after today. We're going to see that she's obviously somebody who seems like she might be favorable to the left on this, but we're going to hear from Jonathan Turley. We'll save that later on in the day. He agrees, right? He's somebody on the right who says there's probably also not going to be indictment. So we'll get back to there, but let's wrap it up with what actually took place at the hearing. Remember, we also have Representative Murphy who was there. And a big part of the conversation today was about Trump's tweets and about Trump's speech. Trump apparently, according to them, was manipulating some of his speeches, right? Adjusting things, editing them around the margins at the conclusion of, or in the days leading up to January 6th, even on January 5th, even like the morning of January 6th. And all of this was, according to the committee, evidence, okay, that he was moving the pieces around. El Trumpo was like a chess king, and he was moving the pawns to the front to go attack the Capitol, while he takes the queen and goes around the back and seizes the podium and rules America. And so here we've got Representative Murphy. I forget where she's from, but she is really going to break this down about Trump's speech edits. And this clip is about 2 minutes and 43 seconds. So let's break it down sort of bit by bit.
Based on documents
loud. All right. I know these were very loud recordings.
We've received from the National Archives, including multiple drafts of the president's speech, as well as from witness testimony.
Okay. So real quick on that, the National Archives, remember, this was a big battle. We had a lot of fighting over this. Donald Trump said that his executive privilege applied to the National Archives, right? He was a president. He said those documents that got transferred over to the National Archives after I left, those are all protected documents. Those are sort of, my private privileged documents. And presidents, have typically, up until very recently, I think, honored that sort of executive privilege. It's private. Nobody gets to see it. But Joe Biden came in and said, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, you want access to everything in the National Archives? No problem at all. Happy to give it to you. And so they waived that, right? The Biden people sort of retroactively waived that and said, we're not going to uphold that. And Trump fought that and said, actually, you don't get to waive that, Joe Biden, because I hold the privilege. Donald Trump holds the privilege. And the courts basically came out and said, no, the office holds the privilege. And so the National Archives can transfer this stuff over to the J6 committee. And so this is where, as we said, right, this collusion between the executive branch and the legislative branch is so problematic, because these are supposed to be separate entities that keep checks on the other branches. We talked about this yesterday, right? One branch is supposed to say to the other branch, listen, buddy boy, you're getting a little bit too close for comfort. The executive branch in this hypothetical, if we personify or sort of humanize these different entities, the executive branch is saying to the legislative branch, ordinarily, when they're not in collusion with one another, we do the prosecutions in this country. We are the executive branch. We enforce the law. That's the constitutionally delegated role of this branch of government. And if we give that over to you, Congress, what that means is that us as the executive branch, we get weaker. Right? If I give up that privilege, I get weaker. But here they're happy to do it because they both have the same political enemy, which is Donald Trump. So the executive branch is really allowing this congressional committee to conduct itself in this manner. And the courts have been entirely deferential to this fake committee, which I've said many times is illegally constituted under H.R. 503, because it is illegally constituted under H.R. 503. And not a single court in this entire country has said that it is lawfully constituted. Not one. They have said that they're going to defer to the legislative branch and let them conduct their own their own affairs. Why? Because of the separation of powers, because the courts are respecting the separation of powers, even though the executive branch and the congressional branch are not. The executive branch is okay allowing the legislative branch to usurp its powers to act as a pseudo grand jury to enact and further a political prosecution in the United States of America. It's the most insane thing that we have going on right now. Let's go back to this person.
We understand how that speech devolved into a call to action and a call to fight. One of the first edits President Trump made to his speech was to incorporate his 5:05 p.m. tweet, revising his speech to say, all of us are here today, do not want to see our election victory stolen by emboldened radical left Democrats. Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore. He also added, together, we will stop the steal. President Trump's edits continued into the morning of January 6th.
January 6th, he's still
editing his speech. As you can see from
the
president's daily diary here, The president spoke to his chief speechwriter, Stephen Miller, for over 25 minutes that morning.
Wow.
Following his
Illegal.
call with Mr. Miller, President Trump inserted for the first time a line in his speech that said, quote, "And we will see whether Mike Pence enters history as a truly great and courageous leader. All he has to do is refer the illegally submitted electoral votes back to the states that were given false and fraudulent information where they want to recertify." No prior version of this speech had referenced Vice President Pence or his role during the joint session on January 6th.
Wow, Donald Trump changed his speech right up on the morning of January 6th. Amazing.
These last-minute edits by President Trump to his speech were part of the president's pressure campaign against his own vice president.
Oh, there it is.
But not everyone wanted these lines regarding the vice president included in the president's speech, including White House lawyer Eric Hirschman.
Okay, so let's play a clip.
Did you ever speak to anybody in the White House at the time about this disagreement?
Wait a minute. That's not Eric Hirschman. Eric Hirschman is the panda lawyer. Huh. So first of all, this lady, Rep. Murphy, is basically just narrating the whole story, right? Reading from her teleprompter. So again, insane. Okay, she's literally testifying to the American people. She is a biased congresswoman who is presenting her version of evidence. She wasn't there. She didn't see any of this. She got multiple layers of hearsay statements regurgitated to her under pressure in an extrajudicial proceeding that doesn't have any semblance of equal protection or due process in any way, shape, or form. So now, after that, she's going to say there's a reference to Michael Hirschman, who is the creepy panda guy, and they don't play a clip of him.
Between the president and the vice president, other than the president, based on the objection from your counsel?
That's Stephen Miller.
Maybe had a brief conversation about it with Eric Hirschman.
Tell me about that. What do you remember him saying to you about this disagreement?
All hearsay.
I just remember him saying that that he had a I don't want to get this wrong. Sort of something to the effect of
I don't want to get this wrong. I don't really remember. He's stumbling all over the place. Something to the effect of
thinking that it would be counterproductive. I think he thought to discuss the matter publicly.
I think he thought it might be counterproductive to discuss the matter publicly. Like, do you hear this language?
So it came up in the context of editing the president's speech on January the 6th.
I just came to the conversation where Eric knew it was in the speech, and so he had a sidebar with me about it.
And so the speechwriters took that advice and removed the lines about Vice President Pence.
Oh, wait, he didn't even say that? Oh, so they removed the sentences from the speech and he didn't even say that. Well, that's weird. I wonder how you can be an insurrectionist leading an insurrection when you're not saying the insurrectionary things. Wow. Pretty shocking. I don't know how that's weird. It's like you didn't steal the candy bar, but you thought about it. Therefore, you're guilty. Sorry. It's how it works here in the new America. Now, this same narrative, right? The dumbest. I think these committee members are actually getting dumber. Honestly, this is getting worse. But here you can see there was also this non-tweet. Okay, same thing, same story. Now, I don't have a video clip of this one, but the same deal. They put this tweet up here today, and they said, a draft tweet, okay, a draft tweet. I will be making a big speech at 10 a.m. at the Ellipse, south of the White House. Please arrive early. Massive crowds expected. March to the Capitol after. Stop the steal. Okay, we didn't actually post that. And so they're going to say that is, I guess, an illegal draft tweet as well. Now, look, folks, I've said this many times before. Lawyers and politicians and people are allowed to discuss things. You're allowed to make all sorts of theoretical arguments in your head. Okay, happens every day at our law firm. People will ask us all the time, anything we can do on our case, anything you can do to help me, I don't know, beat my DUI? Yeah, there is. There's a lot that we can do. Here's a list of 100 things. Why? Should that be illegal for us to sit down with a potentially an alleged criminal defendant, somebody who is alleged to have broken the law, to sit down with them and hypothesize about beating the government, about advocating for our position? That's what lawyers do. That's what politicians do. They advocate and they debate, and then they come up with, most of the time, bonehead ideas that they shove down the rest of our throats. But that is not illegal. If you made it illegal to strategize about a potential course of action in this country, well, my friends, every single thing could come under scrutiny as a result, right? It's extremely insane precedent, which is why we don't do this in criminal law, right? You actually have to have more, which is why we heard from Heidi Heitkamp previously that, yeah, she doesn't, even as a former prosecutor and somebody who, is probably sympathetic to an indictment, think that there is anything there, because there isn't. But this is all a dog and pony show, right? And they just go on and on and on. And as somebody that actually has to live and work and operate within the criminal justice system, this is so disgusting. It is eliminating all of the traditional checks and balances on a system to ensure that people are not wrecked by the bureaucracy. They've eliminated that for their political ends, and it is reprehensible. Now, even Rachel Maddow is going to come back and have some questions about this conversation, but we'll come back to her in a minute. The narrative continues that there was this march. Miss Murphy is going to be guiding us through this conversation, and they actually posted this tweet here from Mike Lindell, apparently. It's an excerpt. Kylie Kremer sent this over, and actually, let's listen to her as she describes to us what's going on. So here is, once again, Miss Murphy, Mrs. Murphy, from, I can't remember where she's from.
The committee has obtained this draft, updated.
There's the draft.
Undated tweet from the National Archives. It includes a stamp stating, "President has seen." The draft tweet reads, "I will be making a big speech at 10 a.m. on January 6th at the Ellipse, south of the White House. Please arrive early. Massive crowds expected. March to the Capitol after. Stop the steal." Although this tweet was never sent, rally organizers were
Never sent! Although this tweet was never sent. The rally organizers, so why are they showing us it?
March to the Capitol after. Stop the steal. Although this tweet was never sent, rally organizers were discussing and preparing for the march to the Capitol in the days leading up to January 6th. This is a January 4th text message from a rally organizer to Mike Lindell, the MyPillow CEO. The organizer says, this stays between us. We're having a second stage at the Supreme Court again after the Ellipse. POTUS is going to have us march there / the Capitol. It cannot get out about the second stage because people will try and set up another and sabotage it. It can also not get out about the march because I will be in trouble with the National Park Service and all the agencies. But POTUS is going to just call for it, quote, unexpectedly.
Okay, so I think, I actually think this cuts against them. I mean, this is kind of a weird thing, but this is coming out on the 4th. And on the 4th, they're saying, the point of this, right, you see why they sort of blow this out. The POTUS is going to call for it unexpectedly. They're making this seem like the president is concocting this whole insurrection, right? What he's doing is he's planning this out. He's coordinating with Mike Lindell, the MyPillow guy, and he's going to bring, a bunch of sewing needles into there, and they're going to just, they're all just going to lounge around the Capitol building while they run America. And, this is a back and forth now. Lindell with somebody named Kylie Kremer. And what the hearing is attempting to do is to make this seem like this was all planned, right? That's why they're bringing out this language, march to the going to have to march there to the Capitol. But they're trying to show that this is evidence of it. This is indicia of intent. This is showing that Trump was motivated to send people to the Capitol to insurrect it. But if you just look at the actual text, like before they black it out, before they sort of blur it out there, it says this stays only between us. We are having a second stage at the Supreme Court again after the ellipse. Like, this is on the 4th, right? We're having a second stage. That's why he's sending everybody over there. It's not to insurrect America. It's to go to the second stage at the Supreme Court. And Trump is just going to say, and look, I don't know if you've been there, but they're really close to each other. The Capitol building is right next to the Supreme Court building. You can go walk to the Supreme Court building and walk right basically across the street, and you're on the Capitol grounds, right next to each other. So if they have a second stage at the Supreme Court and you're walking to the Supreme Court from the ellipse, you're naturally going to go past, guess what? The Capitol. to the second stage. So they're bringing this out to say that this was an assault on, America, that this march was evidence that Trump was colluding with Mike Lindell to steal the country. When really they're going to the second stage, and Trump is saying, we're just going to have an announcement that that's where we're going. Wow. Maybe that second stage was a staging area, which was going to act as a base of operations for the military takeover after that guy brought them the podium. I think that's got to be the secret, right? The podium guy, that must be where on there, it must be a screen or something like an iPad that runs the country. I don't know how this works, but might be that. But absolutely ridiculous. So I don't really know why they played that. It sort of explains what was going on. Don't tell anybody about it. Why would you keep it under secret? Why? Because other groups are going to sabotage it. Don't tell anybody. I'll be in trouble with the National Park Service because people are going to go to it and maybe there's not a permit or something for it. But he says, don't tell anybody about it because they're going to try to sabotage it. Okay. Maybe that's the operation of I don't know what it is, but that is the clip. Now here, they brought in multiple layers of hearsay. This is Ivanka, Trump's chief of staff. And I don't remember what her name is. Maybe the video will tell us, but they're asking her now, right? The speech got changed. Donald Trump is sort of moving the pieces around in order to go take over the Capitol. And now they're saying, well, what about the speech itself? Now that all these changes, I mean, they were going to post it in. They were going to put that sentence in, then they took it out. They were going to post the tweet, then they didn't post it. So a bunch of evidence that never actually is in evidence because they never used it, right? It's a bunch of theoretical stuff happening in people's minds that never actually happened. Now what they're going to do is say, Ivanka, did you have to settle him down? Did you have to go up to your daddy, Trump, and say, calm down, Dad. Dad, Pops, take it easy over here, okay? Relax. Did you have to do that? Rep Murphy, apparently, somebody asked Ivanka these questions when she was under deposition, and she says, no, that's not how it went down at all. And the committee didn't like that hearing, so they went to her chief of staff, and they said, well, what do you say? And she says, well, she told me that it did happen, right? So again, game of telephone, multiple layers of hearsay, one right after the other. This is what it sounds like.
Been reported that you ultimately decided to attend the rally because you hoped that you would calm the president and keep the event on an even keel. Is that accurate?
No, I don't know who said that or where that came from.
What did she share with you about why it was concerning that her father was upset or agitated after that call with Vice President Pence in relation to the Ellipse rally? Why did that matter?
Okay, so Ivanka already said no, right? Nope, don't know where that came from.
Why did he have to be calmed down, I should say?
Well, she shared that he had called the vice president and not an
multiple layers of hearsay. Sorry, the chat's telling me it's too loud.
expletive word. I think that bothered her, and I think she could tell based on the conversations and what was going on in the office that he was angry and upset, and people were providing misinformation. And she felt like she might be able to help calm this situation down.
They just heard from Ivanka, okay, who was the primary source. She said no. So they go to her, who's the White House chief of staff, to get a different answer. Isn't that nice? Now, you know, it's all just par for the course. Really what we're going to do is break this down and take a look at the concept behind this. What they're trying to do is connect Donald Trump. They have to make a connection between his words and insurrection. So Donald Trump said some things. He wrote a speech. He went out there, did some action that caused the insurrection, so-called, to happen. And that is what he gets indicted for. So they're trying to, they're scraping together to make some sort of connection. Donald Trump assaulted a Secret Service person. Donald Trump almost published a tweet, but didn't. Donald Trump almost did this, but didn't, right? The list goes on and on and on. Now, in reality, right, we have to remember that this is what actually came out of Trump's mouth at the speech on that particular day. They don't like to play this clip, but this is 10 seconds from this speech They like to take out their version of the 10 seconds, right? Their version of Trump saying we're going to fight like hell. They take their 10 seconds, but they're not putting it in the context of this statement.
I know that
This is what made it into the speech.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard today.
Peacefully and patriotically to make your voices heard. So the committee, that is a scam, right? They're going to say that, oh, all of these changes were made to the speech. This was changed and this tweet almost went out but didn't. And then so on and so forth. Donald Trump's daughter even had to console him because he was so mad and rage-filled. Donald Trump goes out there and the words that come out of his mouth peacefully and patriotically making their way to the Capitol to make their voices heard. Not even complicated, right? Pretty clear. Now, you can use all of the other bravado, all of the other language in there. Yeah, it might be pretty aggressive, but it's no different than anything else that any other politician has ever said ever. And we've got whole clips of that down in the mind map under the double standards section where you can really unpack all of those. Now, I'm being alerted here from Vienticus saying Viva is in the house. Shout out to Viva. I miss Viva. We got to get together. I got to invite him on our channel. It's been way too long. Now, Viva, of course, is next door at Viva Fry on YouTube and vivabarneslaw.locals.com, right next door to us at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And so shout out to Viva in the house. Viva's been covering the Canadian, right? Tamara Lick, I think is how you say her name, or Litch. I apologize if I butchered that, but my goodness, go check out his channel for that. But here, right, Trump just wrapped up and continued to say peacefully and patriotically. That never makes it into the conversation, but very, very interesting, right? As I explained previously, they're trying to connect the dots. They're trying to say Trump's speech resulted, Litch is how you say Tamara's name. And so Rachel Maddow is going to help connect the dots for us, or let's say disconnect the dots, because what the committee is trying to do is say Trump said some things and caused an insurrection. But let's listen to Rachel Maddow. This is weird. She's saying that maybe that's not the case. Donald Trump said some things, but some other people seized the Capitol building. This is a clip from some time ago. Let's listen to this one.
Just the key point.
Actually, I don't know when this one is, but let's listen.
Yes, there was a pro-Trump rally at which the president spoke, and we can absolutely talk about all the things the president said there. But the idea that that rally is the thing that got out of hand and that somehow resulted in the breaching of the Capitol, that rally was very far from the Capitol. Yep. And the people who, as you say, did the initial breach that allowed everybody else to come in, they never even went to that rally.
What? Wait, what? Wait, that doesn't make any sense because Donald Trump was the cause of the insurrection, right? He went out there and he said, fight like hell, fight, 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 fight like hell. But Rachel Maddow is saying from her perspective, there was another group there. Wow. Who may have broken in previously. Wow. You're kidding me. Who may have been, I don't know, infiltrated by literally Ray Epps on the west side of the Capitol building that day. We have clips of it. We have confidential human sources from the FBI who are also saying that the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers went in after the fact to go assist law enforcement. We have photos and videos of police being tapped on the shoulder and letting individuals in. It's insane. And even Rachel Maddow, you know, to her credit, is saying it feels weird. It feels like these two things are not connected. Feels like Trump was doing one thing over here at this rally, and there was another sort of nefarious group that did the attack on the Capitol. And if that's the case, well, then they've got their work cut out from them, right? Because then now what they have to do is connect Donald Trump to that alternative. And his speech is not going to be good enough. Him saying fight like hell. Rachel Maddow's observations are that did not cause the insurrection. That's been all of our observations from day one. You can just time it up, right? Trump wasn't even done speaking yet as people were making their way into the Capitol. So you can just put it together, right, bit by bit. But this committee is lying. I mean, literally, like they're creating a different fictional narrative about all this. Even Rachel Maddow can see it. And so credit to her for saying that. But the story continues, right? This is all going to just be, it's not about fact. It's not about evidence. It's not about any reality. It's about a narrative. And Heidi Heitkamp, the senator, has already explained that to us. Now, our last political J6 committee person is Liz Cheney. And I mentioned this previously. This guy testified today, but I don't have a clip of his testimony because he was getting a little close to the to the line there on some of the looking back at the election. So we don't have a clip from him, but it wasn't that interesting anyways, to be honest. Liz Cheney was asking him a question about his opinions, and he said, well, it kind of changed, and I don't believe what I believed back then, and the list goes on and on. Now, there was a sort of a bombshell that came out. Liz Cheney told us that Donald Trump might be committing new crimes. Oh my gosh, are you serious? A whole slew of new crimes? We already had the crimes for impeachment number 1, nowhere. Impeachment number 2, nowhere. We've got Insurrecting America. We're in the middle of it, basically impeachment number 3 here. And so and he's not even in office anymore. So we've got a whole slew of criminal charges that are going to come of this one. And Donald Trump broke the law again? Oh, Donald. Let's see what she's talking about. Apparently, he's interfering and tampering with witnesses. Here's Lizzie.
One more item. After our last hearing, President Trump tried to call a witness in our investigation, a witness you have not yet seen in these hearings. That person declined to answer or respond to President Trump's call and instead alerted their lawyer to the call. Their lawyer alerted us, and this committee has supplied that information to the Department of Justice. Let me say one more time, we will take any effort to influence witness testimony very seriously.
Oh, Liz Cheney's dropping the bomb. So, witness tampering now. Donald Trump apparently witness tampering. Now, this is a curious one because remember, they have subpoenaed essentially every single person in the country who is a Republican. I'm waiting for my subpoena. I'm waiting for it. I would love one, honestly. Liz, send me one, please. It'd give me content for like 6 months. I wouldn't even have to think about it. So, I'm not intending, I don't expect to get a subpoena. I'd love one, honestly, but she's not going to send me one. But she has sent one out to, I don't know, Sean Hannity, Sebastian Gorka. I mean, every stinking person who was even remotely in the vicinity of DC, who is a Republican and voted, got a subpoena. Thousands of people, right, were all involved in this. Now, that makes it difficult for Donald Trump to have a conversation with anybody about anything without the committee saying that that is interference. So it sounds like Donald Trump didn't actually talk to this person. The person didn't answer the call. And so they're saying that this is witness tampering. And so right, you got to look at the federal statutes, and maybe I should have pulled those up and we could go through this case by case, but you can't trust even the report from Liz Cheney because we know that they're working with liars. I mean, bona fide liars. I mean, they put Cassidy Hutchinson on the stand. She's either a poison pill who sort of jeopardized the entire credibility of the committee in total, or she's a liar, right? She actually just lied. Tony Ornato debunked her claim. Eric Hirschman, creepy panda guy, also was was debunking her, saying, I wrote the note, not you, weirdo. Doesn't even look like your handwriting. So who cares what these people say because they present false evidence, literal fake news to the American people. Now, that was Liz Cheney, who is the vice chair. We already played this clip from Heidi Heitkamp. She said it's a political hit job. And she said previously, if you're just joining us, she told us that there was no basis she saw as a prosecutor for a criminal indictment. Let's play that just one more time. It's a short clip.
You know, these events, we're covering them a lot like a trial, but they really are a political event. But again, I think their narrative is a political narrative. It's going to be up to the Justice Department. I agree with Dan. I think everything, as a former prosecutor myself, everything that I've heard, I think it would be a very tough indictment to get, but I also think it would be a tough way. I think it would be very, very difficult, knowing what we know right now, to see an indictment of this president.
Yeah, very difficult to see an indictment. And who is this lady? This is Mary Catherine Heidi Heitkamp. A little bit more about her. She is a lobby lawyerist, United States Senator back from 2013 to 2019, member of the North Dakota Democratic Nonpartisan Lead Party. So a Democrat, she's the last Democrat to have represented North Dakota in Congress, the last to hold statewide office. So probably sort of a less blue Democrat, just given the demographics. But she, of course, used to be a prosecutor, and she's now out saying that there's just not enough there to indict Donald Trump. So that's from her. We also had a very similar clip come out from this individual is Jonathan Turley. He writes for, well, all over the place. I don't know how this guy writes so much, but he writes a lot. And he is in concurrence. He's agreeing with Miss Heidi, saying not looking like there's going to be an indictment.
I tend to look at these things as a criminal defense attorney, and I got to tell you, I still don't see the criminal case here to be made out. They haven't created that nexus. Bringing in someone who left this organization years before the riot, or bringing in an anonymous Twitter former employee, is not going to make it for prosecutors. They need something much, much more clear and direct. And also, bringing up horrible ideas that were not adopted doesn't exactly build a conspiracy. I was sort of surprised, because we spent so much time talking about this horrific plan that nobody would support, that the president ultimately apparently rejected.
Right. Stuff that was just in theory they didn't even use is now being dragged out like this is part of the insurrection. It's like it really is pretty dumb. I mean, it's honestly just to show you that Trump is thinking through these things. I mean, it might even give him credit, right? It's like, okay, he had people around him who stopped him from doing things, right? Or he himself stopped himself from doing things. But they're playing around with ideas, and I can't emphasize this enough. This is required in law. If you just sit around and do everything like your predecessor did, if you do everything according to the rules every single time, we have a stagnant, decaying society. You need people to challenge things. This is what lawyers do. This is what politicians do. Now, we had a very interesting clip from John Bolton. We've got John Bolton. We're going to hit this CNN clip to see what the man on the street sound like. We'll take a look at the next hearing, and then we're going to jump into your comments and your super chats. I saw several of those come in. We had Mary B. Sunshine, Bear Ashby, Alan Harkin, and Just Cause is in the house. And we're going to be getting to your super chats as well as our locals member comments here in a minute. But this was a very interesting clip today from John Bolton. John Bolton has been basically in, I think, every single White House forever. You know, since I've been alive, he's been around, I think, in every White House. John Bolton is now sitting here with CNN, and he's having a conversation with Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper, of course, is hysterical over January 6th. Jake Tapper is a guy who we sat down, we played a clip of him with Boris Johnson, and Boris Johnson said, you know, what happened on January 6th was weird. And Tapper said, well, it was more than weird. You know, people died. And Johnson said, Jake, calm down. You're being a little childish right now. It was a weird day. And Jake said, no, it was more than weird. And Boris said, Jake, for the third time, it was a weird day. Let's move on. And so now you can see that Jake Tapper's not going to move on. He's going to continue to have this conversation with John Bolton. And John Bolton, just so we're aware, he's got a lot of background here. Republican consultant, United States political commentator, U.S. National Security Advisor from 2018 to 2019, Attorney General for Reagan from 1985. See, I told you, he's been in office ever since I was born. He served the State Department, 89 to 93, Secretary of State, worked for George W. Bush, worked for President Donald Trump, written a number of different books, presidential advisor to Mitt Romney, right? The guy sort of, you know, loves America, intervention, and wants endless war around the world. But the point is, he's been in a lot of administrations, Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Secretary of State, all sorts of, right, the guy's everywhere. Now, he is here, and he sort of, a lot of people are saying he kind of said the quiet part out loud when he was in his position doing all of those things. He sort of admits, you know, Jake, as somebody who's been around since the 1980s, okay, I've seen a lot of coups. You're kind of talking to the coup master, in fact. So I know a lot about these coups and insurrections and undermining democratic institutions and changing power and installing dictators. And I've got some opinions to share with you, Jake. Here's how this conversation goes.
Not heed the advice and keep shopping around until you end up with this group of misfits with like Michael Flynn and Sidney Powell. Is he just not capable of hearing no?
Well, when it comes to his personal advantage, the answer is he doesn't listen to anybody else. But I think
he doesn't listen to anybody else, right? That's Donald Trump. That's why he got elected. And people will decide to not elect him if they don't like that political disposition when he's leading the government, right? And this is the point that I've been making for a long time now. The proper remedy for a president that you don't like doing presidential things that you think are improper, don't vote him back into office, right? That's why we have impeachment proceedings. 2 of them failed. And we have a political process, and he lost, right? That was a reflection according to, the ideals of democracy and how this is all supposed to function. The people are a check on political bad actors. We don't need oppositional government bureaucrats who are from oppositional political parties to go after their political enemies. Why? Because that turns us into a fake garbage democracy, right? A fake garbage republic where you have political parties prosecuting their oppositional political parties. We're supposed to take all of that out of the equation and refer that to the American people so that the people can make the decision on who to retain and who to throw out. But when you sort of take that away from and the people have already made a decision on this, right? They've already decided, as we're going to see, what the January 6th man on the street looks like from CNN. Here, though, Jake Tapper is going to go back with Bolton, and this is very, very interesting.
No. Well, when it comes to his personal advantage, the answer is he doesn't listen to anybody else. But I think it's also important to understand, while nothing Donald Trump did after the election in connection with the lie about the election fraud, none of it is defensible. None of it is defensible. It's also a mistake.
Which we can't get into it all here. But that's a difference of opinion. A lot of people have different opinions on that.
Some people have said, including on the committee, the commentators, that somehow this was a carefully planned coup d'etat aimed at the Constitution.
All right. So that, right? Carefully planned coup d'etat. The committee is making the allegation that Trump was colluding with the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. Steve Bannon was involved. Many nefarious actors, including Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, Michael Flynn, and Mike Lindell, apparently, were going to take over the country. And now saying that this is all this masterminded organization that's going to seize power.
Somehow this was a carefully planned coup d'etat aimed at the Constitution. That's not the way Donald Trump does things. It's rambling from one half-vast idea to another, one plan that falls through and another comes up. That's what he was doing. As I say, none of it defensible. But you have to understand.
So there was no plan. Donald Trump was just sort of fielding ideas and then processing them in real time, right? As I've said, a lot of people operate this way. And you can take a Colby. Now that I think about it, take your Colby score. And I'm going to guess that Donald Trump is probably a pretty high quick start. He's probably an 8 or a 9 on the quick start. But probably not too high on the fact finding. Probably like a 1 or a 2 on the fact finding. Probably an 8 or 9 on the quick start, I would say. But you get the picture now. Michael Bolton, or who is this? No, he's a singer, right? John Bolton here is the individual now who's saying Trump is not orchestrating a vast conspiracy. He doesn't work that way, Jake.
Understand the nature of what the problem of Donald Trump is. He's, to use a Star Wars metaphor, a disturbance in the force. And it's not an attack on our democracy. It's Donald Trump looking out for Donald Trump. It's a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence.
A once-in-a-lifetime occurrence, not even a big deal. This was an aberration. It was a disturbance in the force. Stop freaking out about it, everybody. Relax. Jake Tapper doesn't like this answer.
I don't know that I agree with you, to be fair, with all due respect. One doesn't have to be brilliant to attempt a coup.
I disagree with that. As somebody.
You don't have to be brilliant to attempt a coup. Now, this is the key part. This is where Bolton is apparently saying the quiet part out loud.
I don't know that I agree with you, to be fair, with all due respect. One doesn't have to be brilliant to attempt a coup.
I disagree with that. As somebody who has helped plan coup d'etat, not here, but other places, it takes a lot of work. And that's not what he did. It was just stumbling around from one idea to another. Ultimately, he did unleash the rioters at the Capitol. As to that, there's no doubt.
So Rachel Maddow disagrees with him on that, right? Rachel Maddow said, no, he kind of didn't. Rachel Maddow says that there were 2 groups. Donald Trump was speaking, and there were other people who were insurrecting in the Capitol before the speech even ended. And I think you can look at different understandings of the different timelines and come to those same conclusions. But Bolton is, he's sort of going back to that same traditional narrative. But the bigger picture is that Tapper and the Sixers, the J6 committee and their kind, are not even over the mark of insurrection. Okay, this is a guy who's got a lot of insurrection experience. Okay, just listen. And I got a lot of follow-up questions for that. What, Iraq or Afghanistan, or what were you doing over there? How'd you do these things?
Out, but not to overthrow the Constitution, to buy more time to throw the matter back to the states to try and redo the issue. And if you don't believe that, you're going to overreact. And I think that's a real risk for the committee, which has done a lot of good work, mostly when the witnesses testify, not when the members are opining. It is invariably the case that when you go too far trying to prove your case, you undermine it. And I think you got to give credit to the intelligence of the American people to listen to the witnesses and let them come to the conclusion. And I think the fellow who had actually gone into the Capitol, who said today that he had blinders on and he was too loyal to one person, that is the central point.
Yeah, no, it's something, and it was, as I think Laura Coates said, or somebody said earlier, an offering for a lot of.
Yeah, so they're going to present it all to the American people and let everybody participate in it. But Bolton's, I think, astute on this observation that if the Democrats continue to present evidence that is undermining their credibility, as they have done so, and as these committees continue to roll on, it feels like they're getting more lacking in credibility. Today we were talking about documents that never even made it out into the public. Tweets and changes to the speech that never made it. That was the subject of the evidence today. So it's just like, what are we talking about? We're talking about like fictional stuff. It's all a political hit, obviously. Now, the question, of course, is does anybody care about this? Before we jump into your comments and your thoughts and figure out what's coming up next, does anybody care? CNN went out, they did a man on the street segment, and the answer is really no. We've already known this. We're covering it because it's our solemn duty to respond to garbage logic that is being shoved down our gullets from our own government, and we'll continue to do it, but most people don't care.
Where does January 6th and those hearings fit on the priority list for you?
On the bottom rung to me.
It's getting a little bit lost in the shuffle.
Don Coors is a Republican who voted for Donald Trump twice and would vote for him again.
I think it's more of a distraction. What the real reason is why these January 6th hearings are going on, I think is beyond what we're seeing superficially.
Why these hearings are going on? Did you hear her? This woman is smarter than most people at CNN and basically everybody over at MSNBC. She says that this is about something that's going on that none of us can see.
What the real reason is why these January 6th hearings are going on, I think is beyond what we're seeing superficially.
Beyond what we're seeing superficially. Very intelligent and astute observation. We know that we've got some stuff coming up very soon. I think there was supposed to be a hearing on Thursday, but they canceled that. Cipollone, according to Axios, tells us that new testimony from Pat Cipollone has caused the J6 committee to delay a hearing that had been informally planned for Thursday this week. Jamie Raskin told Axios, he says, quote, "I know that we've just changed Thursday's meeting to next Thursday, so not this week on Thursday, but the following week. I think we're shooting for this Thursday, but now we have an infusion of new testified." He says, "I think that Cipollone's testimony has opened up a number of different avenues," whatever that means. Murphy said on Meet the Press that they got a lot of relevant information. Cheney said that it met our expectations. Yesterday, we already heard from Rep. Zoe Lofgren and others. We talked about that in the show yesterday, where Zoe Lofgren was saying that they didn't corroborate any evidence. In fact, they didn't even attempt to corroborate because that's not what they do, right? That's just not how they handle things. And so that is episode number 7 of the Insurrection, my friends. And my goodness, this limited series, some shows will go out kind of on top. Seinfeld kind of wanted everybody leaving more. And, there's a lot of these shows that kind of hang on. There are others that just peter out and burn themselves into the ground, that just they're just going to wring every little action figure and every little stupid t-shirt out of it. And that's what they're doing. And we'll continue to cover it. And I appreciate you joining us on that. Now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. And I want to see what you have to say. We've got an awesome community over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, and they are chatting away over there. We've got Zach Nichols. We have JC the Music Man. MBB former from Texas 48 is in the house. Tweak is here. And Zach Nichols says, hey, Zach Nichols was asking about that interview and how recent that was. I think it was today with Bolton. We've got some shout outs on Rumbles over to Hiker7, Nexit 2020. Soul Warrior Vibe is over there, along with Isle Paint and Blue Piahen are chatting away over on Rumble. And so now let's go ahead and do a quick refresh from our locals community and see what kind of questions we've got in the tank. Here, we've got our first one from Hand of Nod. Hand of Nod writes, Robert, good evening. I'm frustrated. Off the top of my head, Ukraine and ICBMs, economy and energy, immigration and sovereignty, abortion and culture war. Some problems are self-actualizing. Should the government at large continue failing the state's first duties while trampling on individual freedoms, terrorism doesn't exist in a vacuum. I made the gross error of skimming the abortion panel from today's congressional hearings. I also watched Lauren Southern's manifesto and her 2020 immigration documentary. I also checked out Alex Epstein's exchange with the Mises guys on energy. Alex Epstein wrote Fossil Future. It's so very weird how people align on those topics. It's almost like there is a break between humans who want humanity to succeed and those who want a select few to succeed. Malthus and Sanger are among the scum that keep granting gifts. Making a Twitter account was the best and worst thing I did this year. Maybe later this week I can bring some cohesion. Stay vigilant. Hand of Nod. Thank you for the very nice comment there, Hand of Nod. Very concerning issues indeed. Yeah, a lot of things to be frustrated about. And we're watching our elected officials continue to botch all of these concerns. Yeah, it is a concerning issue indeed. Thank you, Hand of Nod. Ed J is here. He says, hello and happy Taco Tuesday. I think Pence should have made it go back to the states. If it was then determined to be legally wrong, so what? But I think you are wrong. Why would the counting process in the House on one cyst exist? What's it for? If I were Pence, ask forgiveness. And so Ed J is sort of talking about the counting of the electoral votes. I mean, look, there is an argument there, right? That Pence could have rejected the electors, and then the actual electors that were ascertained by the Secretary of State, signed off on by the governor, and substituted those out from a legislative slate of electors that were properly endorsed by the legislatures. But I don't think that that's what I have to go back and remember. We talked about this, Ed, like at length. It's a very complicated issue, okay, to be fair. There are multiple ways that you can dissect this issue. And we've talked about this. If you're at j6mindmap.com, let's take a look at some of the issues. Now, where did I save this one? Counters, election integrity. Oh, the House decides. Yeah, the Electoral College, right? Here's the Electoral College. And the House decides here in 1801. The House decided the House of Representatives. There's a lot of history of the House deciding these things, sending this back to the... Anyways, the point goes on. There's a lot of room for debate on this. And I think that the fact that you do debate it is not enough to be an insurrectionist. I think it's a good comment, Ed. Thank you. Thunder7 says, hey, Rob, Viva is going down to record the Bannon trial live. You're kidding me. Not sure he's going to. It's all private, right? He says that they're going to pick the jury on Monday. Will that be live or in secret? Well, it's a federal court. So that, first of all, that's awesome that he's going down there. He's probably going to be sitting in a media room or listening in or something, right? I don't know what the setup is going to be there, but it will not be able to be broadcast, right? He can't as far as I know, maybe he's got some other situation, but their federal trials are typically not broadcast. I'm going to be getting the transcripts, which means, my goodness, maybe Viva and I can sort of team up on some of this stuff and, attack it from both ways. So I'll connect with Viva on that because I'm paying for the transcripts, and I already published yesterday's oral arguments. I published those on Twitter and I published those on our locals community. So if Viva's got like on the ground reporting, right, and he's sort of there seeing it all, and I've got the official transcripts, we might have like as much of a full trial as we can possibly get that we can communicate to you guys. So that's pretty cool. I'm happy to hear that. Vientica says, as a point of technicality, fun fact, America's first appointed president was named Peyton Randolph. Was that before the Constitution and all of that was founded? Thank you, Vienticus. There was a whole series of presidents, right? Thunder7 says, carnage? The BLM Antifa created $2 billion worth of carnage during the Summer of Love. Do these Dems believe we forgot about that violence that almost burned the country down? Desperation doesn't even describe these swamp creatures. They know they can't beat the MAGA King. Trump's popularity has increased since the J6 Dog and Pony show began. Is that true, Thunder7? It's hard to gauge that, right? I see a lot of polls saying that that is not true, but I don't know. I don't know. I've speculated about this too, Thunder7, that a lot of people are so grossed out by what this committee is doing that they might just support Trump out of spite. They might just say, you know what? Screw these people who are trying to do this to him. And maybe people come off the sidelines. I think there might be something to that. Stookie is here. What's up, Stookie? Stookie says Heitkamp was a North Dakota senator who lost her seat after getting caught on film high-fiving Schumer after the pro-abortion vote passed. Whoa, I didn't know that. That's interesting. North Dakota Catholics did not appreciate that. Wow, that's interesting, Stookie. Wow. Isn't it crazy how one thing can just take you out? Like, remember the scream from what's his face, Howard Dean? We're gonna go back to the White House. Remember that one? Campaign over. It was over for one thing. And Heitkamp does a high five, and that's it. That's it, right? Amazing. So thank you for that, Stookie. Good to see you, Stookie. We had another one from Miss Lucky. Hey, Sergeant Bob is in the house. He says, great job, Robert. To paraphrase a Shakespeare quote, it is a world of sound and fury signifying nothing. Yeah, I think that's a good quote there from Sergeant Bob. And they're here in Arizona there. Shout out to Miss Lucky and Sergeant Bob who are here in the house. It's much better now that they're here. Over on YouTube, we've got some super chats that came in. May Be Sunshine sent one in at the start of the show, but no question on that. Thank you for supporting the work that we're doing, Maybe. Bear Ashby, another one, says that Raskin's book is expensive toilet paper. Yeah, like $55 for their hard copy. And what is it? $120 for the paperback or something? Ridiculous. Alan Harkin is here, says, I appreciate your good, educated, and fair assessment on these issues and others that normally would bring me a bit of confusion for sure. Well, thank you for that, Alan. It's a very nice thing to say. I try to present stuff. It's hard for me to say that I'm being as fair as usual on this. I am taking a side on this, right? I mean, I am presenting this from one side. I'm very upset with what this committee is doing. I have not been trying to feign, like, let's play the game of put the hat on the right, put them in a light most favorable to them. I could do that, right? We could do that. But I think that basically the entire narrative, even the Republicans on this, have dropped this, right? They're not interested in defending Trump. They're not interested in defending any of the Republicans. They want to see him put out to pasture. And so, I feel like there's a duty to act as a good defense attorney, to act as somebody who's going to hold the line and say that what these people are doing is not okay. It's not appropriate. And so, I don't know if I appreciate it, Alan. I'm not trying to quibble with your compliment here, but I have been thinking a lot about that. I have taken a side on this a lot more than others. And sometimes I try to think of it in a light most favorable to other people, but I'm so grossed out by this. I have a hard time even giving them the benefit of the doubt. And so, Alan, I appreciate you being here. It is confusing, and it's necessarily so, right? They are trying to make this confusing. They're trying to conflate two things: a legitimate public inquiry with this fake show trial. They're trying to confuse you to say that it sort of resembles a trial. And so they want you to think it's legitimate, just like a trial. And the same reasons that we have faith in our, I guess, we're supposed to have faith in our justice system, right? They want to take all those features and shove it on their hearing and pretend like it's the same thing. It's like they're trying to take, a nice car, and they're trying to take the hood ornament off that nice car and put it on their car and say, it's a beautiful car. It performs very well. And it's nice and safe. No, it isn't. It's a banger. Get rid of it. That came in from Alan. Thank you, Alan. Just Cause is here, modding up, holding down the fort. He says, Liz is late for a hunting trip with her dad. LOL. That's a shotgun to the face joke, in case you missed it. Liz Cheney is the daughter, I was going to say son, the daughter of basically Darth Vader to the left until Liz Cheney came out. Now it's Liz Cheney is like their hero and savior. But Dad Cheney, Dick Cheney, was like Darth Vader to many people on the left. And now he's sort of a favored household name in many lefties. Yeah, so Liz Cheney, nobody's going to go hunting with Dick anytime soon for good reason. John McGarvey is here, says no more fun bags videos, please. Oh God, I know. That one was a little bit too much. I know. I know a lot of you didn't like that one. But, it was, hey, sometimes you swing and you miss, and that's why we're here. Now, it is it's a short video, and a lot of people are sharing that. It's getting a lot of views, but it is vomitorious, no question about it. Lava Java Lava is here saying, no question, but a nice super chat, and big welcomes to Wendy W., who just became a member on our YouTube community. And that means you get our morning walk and talks, and you get some time with some other amazing members in our community. We're glad that you're here, Wendy. Thanks for joining up. C. Reed is over on Locals. He says, okay, so just so I have this right. So the USA with a government of the people, by the people, had an insurrection. Definition is a violent uprising against authority or government by the people in the people's house. Just trying to understand this. Seems sus, man. Viantika says, yeah, that's how it all works. It's true. It is true. You can peacefully protest and object to your government in many other locations unless you're a Trump supporter. Viantikis tells us Bolton was incorrect. Trump wasn't a disturbance in the force. He was a disturbance in the farce. Oh man, sometimes, man, Viantikis, I can swing and miss a lot. Viantikis swings, home run. Love it. ZW Trawl says, Rob, I recently read how dishonorable it was that Jefferson would use the media with Madison against Washington and Hamilton. Jefferson believed the media can be used to convince the public something is true as long as you keep saying it. Liz Cheney is basically doing the same thing, same methods against Trump. Big note. She has a book about Madison. I won't buy it. Interesting comment from ZW Trawl. So I hadn't heard about that. I've read a lot about the Founding Fathers. I'm still reading or listening to the book that was written. It's the biography by Walter Isaacson, biography of Benjamin Franklin. And I've not heard that Jefferson was opposed to the media, but that is interesting. Yeah, the media can be problematic, right? Especially if they start to consolidate power and they get to define the fiction under which we live. Miss Lucky is here. Says Sergeant Bob took Miss Lucky shopping for her birthday. Ugh. Is that today? Well, if it is, happy birthday, Miss Lucky. If it's not, happy belated birthday, Miss Lucky. Took her shopping. She found a great CCW purse for her Glock 43X. Love Arizona and love America. Well, that's a pretty nice firearm. I think I bought that for a very special person in my life at one point. But I didn't get a CCW purse. So that is, you got me one-upped as usual, Sergeant Bob, you sly dog, you. All right, we also have The Veil. See, The Veil is here, says, so the J6 committee started almost on the day, June 6, 2022. And when the math was done for June 6 this year, it turned into 666. I don't know what kind of math. What do you mean? What kind of math? But I'll take your word for it. So with this thought of the January 6th committee is doing near demonic chaos. Now, listen, this is a wild comment because I was thinking about this today. Let's continue. So would it be within the powers of the people to put together a grand jury investigation? I don't have basically no, right? No. You need a prosecutor, a Department of Justice to convene the grand jury. I know several of you have sent me stuff about, like the people's grand jury and these alternative systems of government. And I'm just not familiar with any of that. And it's not like none of that is sort of officially recognized within our current institution. Now, there is there is a very interesting thing that's happening. Gosh, I can't remember the case right now, but it's taking place out of I want to say it's the Southern District of New York. There is a person who is making claims of individual sovereignty, and the judge, what's his name? It's going to come to me. He's actually entertaining it. So I'm going to follow that one and see, but I think what you're asking about, it's not something that is pertinent, or at least as far as I know. Now, I don't have confidence in the Republicans to do anything right. but the people using the full power of the third branch of the judicial branch seems needed. Our rights to do what Shifty Shift fears most. Yeah, so see the veil. You know, this is going to be something that is best remedied at the ballot box. The Republicans taking over would give them subpoena power, and then they would be able to go subpoena their political opponents. They could quash the subpoenas. They could disband the committee. They could, you know, retroactively do things. And the courts have said, right, the courts have deferred to them and said, run your committee however you want to. We don't care. Put 13 members on there, put 2 members on there. We don't care. It's your rules. So if the Republicans are now in charge, the courts should theoretically still defer to them and how they run their committees. Now, this is the reason why the J6 prosecutors want these cases prosecuted rapidly, because they know this. They know that their power, their jurisdiction to prosecute is going to evaporate pretty soon, and they don't want that to happen. So they're trying to close this out while they still have time. Jeremy says, after watching your breakdown of the J6 happenings today, with the thought of punishment for what was not done, a new tagline came to mind: violence in silence. That's pretty good, Jeremy. That's pretty good. You got some nice alliteration there. Violence in silence. You know, that might be like a good album name, right? Yeah. Liz Cheney and the J6ers. Violence is silence. Now available on iTunes. Oh gosh, worst album ever. All right, so thank you, Jeremy Matrita, on that one. And that, my friends, I think is it for us. We have, okay, Radice is here, says, I'm starting a GoFundMe page to buy a CCW purse for Robert. Oh my goodness. So I'll just be carrying around my little CC purse. I can take it on my morning walk and talks in case I get mugged. Thank you for that, Radice. That's very nice. Salmon to match my favorite color of his shirts and my favorite sushi. I know I got the salmon on today. Nobody noticed this yesterday, but yesterday was Chartreuse Monday. All right. If you missed yesterday's shows, it was Chartreuse Green Monday, and I forget who brought that comment up, but it was amazing. Thunder7 says, Rob, pencil neck Shifty Shift is now known officially as Watermelon Head. Oh, all right. Well, I got the memo. Noted. Change has been made. As per Trump, as Botox has blown up his neck and face. It's true. He doesn't look like he has a pencil neck anymore. It's weird, right? He doesn't. Like, that comment must have gotten to him. He's swollen up. He might be doing some neck exercises. You get one of those iron necks, you know, you start working that out. I used to exercise my neck when I did wrestling and mixed martial arts. You do your bridges, bridge up, build those neck muscles, you know, so you don't get pinned and you can squirm around when you're getting pinned. Yeah. So, all right, my friends. Well, I think that is it for us for the day. Let's give some final shout outs over to our locals live chat here in the house. Vienticus Prime, Zach Nichols. We have See the Veil, and others are chatting away over there. On Rumble, we have Isle Paint, Nexit 2020, Upon the Horizon, Hiker 7, Cat Crap Fever is in the house. Vienticus Prime, Soul Warrior Vibe, Southern Bix, and others. Thank you to our members on YouTube. I see it here. We've got K Bean in the house, Curtis Bartle, people who are supporting the work that we do. Wendy W. just joined up and became a member. We are doing daily morning walk and talks, and they're a lot of fun. Sometimes I make them sort of open on locals. So join up over on locals as well. But that, my friends, is it for us for the day. Quick reminder, watchingthewatchers.locals.com is the place to join our membership, or you can join on YouTube by clicking that join button. We have a law firm, of course. Every single day, our mission is to help good people charged with crimes. R&R Law Group in Scottsdale, Arizona, 480-787-0394. Our mission is to help good people find safety, clarity, and hope. Any type of criminal case, we can help. I know we have fun here on this channel, but every day, we've got a whole team of people, boots on the ground, dedicated and passionate as can be to help people get through their cases, get that criminal ordeal behind them so that they can move forward. And we appreciate your referrals. It really does mean the world. 480-787-0394, free case evaluations. Final shout outs. Thank you to all the mods who are holding the fort down. Vienticus, K-Bean, Zulu, who I haven't seen in a while, Just Cause, Lean, and Playin' Hooky. Thank you all for your amazing work. And we're sharing the screen real estate with our Spotlight supporters. Check out qsimple.com. If you want some real estate on this screen here, if you support us at a Spotlight level, either on locals or on YouTube, you get a link, you get a shout out. Chris Romero, thank you very much, Chris. David B3 in the house, and Dr. EMB all supporting the tremendous work that we do with spotlight level support. And so we like to support them as well. And that, my friends, is it for us for the day. That's the show. Another one down. We're going to be back tomorrow to do it all again right about the same time. And I hope to see you there. Have a tremendous night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you all on the next one. Bye-bye.